Hi everyone, Catherine here. How are you doing today? Today it's a little bit different because this is actually was meant to be recorded yesterday. However, I was I was in sort of a mood that sort of didn't warrant speaking about this kind of topic. Now, as you all know, as most of you might know, April 25th is a pretty much important day for Australia and New Zealand. If you didn't know, it's called ANZAC Day. Now, it is an acronym which means Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. It dates back from the 25th of April 1915, in the middle of World War, not really in the middle, but more or less the start of World War One. World War One, as you probably know, started in July 1914, and ended around August 1918. I keep on wanting to say 2000, but we're not. We're over 100 years away. Now, for a lot of people who had direct ancestry to the World War One era, this day, the day of the 25th of April, is actually quite an important day, and it's commemorated and celebrated, depending on what your views are, around the country in Australia and New Zealand. It's a national public holiday, and as kids, it was just a day to do nothing really. I mean, it usually was in the April school holidays, so it wasn't really a time that we had a day off school. Parents probably had the time off work and did whatever, so it's a day of just resting, relaxing, and watching the footy, and just taking the time out to spend time with the family. I myself, my oldest living relative, was actually born almost a decade after World War One ended, so we don't actually have any direct connections to World War One or the ANZAC or Gallipoli era, because they were actually born about a decade after World War One finished. So, a bit about history about it, in case you didn't know. ANZAC Day was the 25th of April 1915. It was the day that Australia and New Zealand Army forces went over to Gallipoli, which is, and I don't know, my geography is, I'm never really good at geography, but it's around Africa, I think, Turkey, something like that, to fight against the troops stationed at Gallipoli and to do our bit for the war. Some people say that we lost that bit because we lost a lot of people, a lot of troops, and a lot of people, good people, probably lost their lives at that point as well. Like I said, okay. So we did learn a little bit of history at school, but not really Australian history, more a history of overseas, like America or places like that. And if we did, I think it's called Australian Studies. I don't remember a lot. I don't retain information about history very well, unless it's history about, say, ancient history like Rome and Egypt and Greece and stuff like that. They're the history that I'm into. Never was really into Australian history, even though I probably should be, but never mind. So for those who actually do have connections to World War One, yesterday, the 25th of April, was actually a pretty important day in their history. Morning dawn services, which from my point of view, I don't see the dawn unless I actually have to get up for work, in which case I'll wake up when the sun rises and whatever. So dawn doesn't really exist for me. I'd be lucky if I have the day off to get up maybe before 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, unless I actually have something on that day and I have to get up that early. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Marches in the city. There's stayovers at remembrance celebrations at a local race course around here, and also a lot of people go overseas, take the trip to Gallipoli to actually commemorate and be there to celebrate dawn service. Actually, they did that a couple of years ago for the 100th anniversary of the ANZAC. They actually had school kids, take excursions over to Gallipoli to do a special 100th anniversary dawn service, which I suppose would have been absolutely spectacular pretty emotional, I guess, but it's not something that I personally would like to have been involved with. I'm not saying that, I mean, as a traditionalist, I do traditionally observe the day, like ANZAC Day and Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, whatever you want to call it, because it's part of my Australian history. My ancestry probably didn't or wasn't born in Australia. I think, from what I understand, we might have come from England or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, history is never my thing, and so not really being born to Australia, um, and not really knowing much about my own family history and about World War One itself. Anzac Day was just another day, really. And when we started working, it was a good day because we had it off. And if it was a weekend, we'd have it off. And well, actually, not really, but the anyway, if it's during the week, we'd have it off and everything like that, which is pretty good, actually. So that's a bit of history about Anzac Day in World War One. Like I said, I don't know much else about it. So you can put a look it up online, Google or whatever engine you use, and that will give you more information about what happened. Um, Anzac Day actually has another meaning for me and my family, in which our close friends, like my parents, and two of our friends, their parents actually went to school together, and they sort of grew up in the same area together and became really really close. And they were within the wedding ceremonies themselves when they each got married too. Um, so when and basically when they had their first child, and our parents had me, and then they had a second, and the parents had my brother. We called My brother and I called the girls' parents auntie and uncle, and they did the same. Even though no one technically blood related, we had that close relationship that a lot of people shared, and we did that with a couple of families as well. There are a couple of families that we call auntie and uncle as well. Now, their eldest daughter, who is 15 months older than me, was actually born on Anzac Day herself. So our Anzac Day tradition is just centered around family and celebration of birthday, which is more happy and celebratory thing, because war sort of gets me personally down and depressed a little bit. So I tend not to shut up. I tend not to dwell on that type of thing. So for me, Anzac Day is more about celebration of birthdays and being with family and friends and stuff like that. Now, the eldest girl who was born yesterday, born on the 25th of April, actually has a daughter. Now, her daughter was actually born on the 25th of April as well. So she had her first birthday yesterday. So it was sort of a double celebration. And we went over to her house, and there were a lot of other people there. I think from what my parents said, there was about 100 people there, including like little kids, because, 1 and 2 year old kids and babies and everywhere, because her sister actually has a 5-week-old baby herself now. So yeah, you got to hold her, which is really really sweet. Anyway, so in a way, Anzac Day for me has always been about celebration of life instead of the commemoration of something really really bad that happened in our nation's history. I'm not putting down, and I'm not dehumanizing war or anything like that, because I understand how important it is for a lot of people to remember and bring into their own lives their history and their culture as well. That would have centered around that type of era. But for me personally, it wasn't about the war and remembering the people who died and people who supposedly left a legacy, and we go to memorials and do dawn services and stuff like that. That wasn't the thing that we did in our family. Like I said, our oldest living relative was born almost a decade after the war finished, and her husband was actually born a little bit after her. So he was actually just over 10 years after the war ended. So for me personally, Anzac Day is about a celebration of life instead of a commemoration of a very bad thing that happened in our history. So yeah, anyway, so I know this should have been recorded yesterday. Today's actually the 26th of April, the day after, but I wasn't sort of in that mindset to be able to record something like this yesterday. I was coming down from the lively celebrations of being around friends and family and people that I love and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's really much all I have to say. So, yep, I'll just end it here and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.